Chapter 28, An accomplished scholar Xiao Ye, your brother. The young man who was with you that night.
Ye Shuang had to accompany Grandma Luo, which, of course, had nothing to do with Fang Imo. Even though his sister seemed to be interested in him, even though Fang Imo himself had a pretty good impression of him, it was ultimately someone else's private business. Therefore, no matter how strong the curiosity was, it didn't cross Fang Mo's mind to suggest something as rude as being an extra tour guide to join the party. However, if the other party had suggested it, like a fat cow walking into the open mouth of a crocodile, then it would be a completely different story. Was it fate or just coincidence? Who could really tell? But that's exactly what happened the next day. After about half a time, with a twitch of his lips, Fang Imo rolled up the painting he was examining and nodded to Ye Shuang, who was holding the door open for a great old lady. "This is such a coincidence, Mr. Ye." Ye Shuang naturally hadn't anticipated this sudden encounter. She said in a desperate tone, "Yes, it's quite a coincidence." Grandma Luo's eyes shone happily. She glanced at the elegantly dressed Fang Imo before turning to her future grandson, who was still in the middle of the test. "Xiao Ye, is that your friend?" Often, a man's success could be discerned by the company he surrounded himself with. Hasn't it been said that birds of a feather flock together? Therefore, a person's social circle also represents his status in life. One had to at least be of a similar quality to the members of the social circle to be accepted. Otherwise, no matter how captivating it might seem on the surface, it would have been absolutely useless. Fang Imo, with his majestic presence, greatly impressed Grandma Luo. If this friend wasn't a setup, then based on this Fang Imo alone, Grandma Luo's impression of Xiao Ye had grown tremendously. Before Ye Shuang could answer the question addressed to him, Fang Imo, who was familiar with many social experiences, had already discerned the hidden meaning of Grandma Luo's words. Since he liked Ye Shuang as a friend, Fang Imo voluntarily lent his help to pull up Grandma Luo's affection points for Ye Shuang. "Even though I haven't known Mr. Ye for a long time, he has offered his help on several occasions. Therefore, I consider him a friend." Ye Shuang at that moment understood the situation. She hurriedly made introductions. "This is Fang Imo, your granddaughter's former boss." Grandma Luo nodded with added satisfaction. "Such a promising young man." After a few more words, the elderly lady walked away deeper into the store, leaving behind a sighing Ye Shuang to take a much-needed breath and chat with Fang Imo. "What kind of drug has clouded your mind to the point of bringing your girlfriend's grandmother to visit an ancient painting and calligraphy store?" After calming down from the initial shock, Fang Imo couldn't help but throw this verbal dig at Ye Shuang. Of course, he was aware of what was going on. After all, even the upper class had to find a partner and get married. Even though Fang Imo had not experienced this ordeal himself, he had heard about the infamous in-law ordeal from his many friends. However, the stories he had heard from his friends were mostly in shopping malls or hotels, mainly to see if the man was willing to spend money on his future in-laws, or if he was kind enough to offer to help carry the shopping bags and other various personality tests. This was the first time he'd seen the test taken in a paint and calligraphy store. "I swear to God, this was not planned. It's mainly due to this mouth of my despicable younger brother." Ye Shuang hissed in anger, thinking of the trouble little brother Ye had inadvertently dragged her into again. Fearing that Grandma would not be satisfied with me, he did his best to slip in a few good words about me. Frankly, his intention was pure, but I really don't understand why he said I was an accomplished scholar of the 4 ancient Chinese arts. Grandma, of course, thought it was too unbelievable, so she purposely brought me here today to see if I was bluffing or not. Fang Imo blinked a few times and wondered in disbelief. Fang Imo couldn't help but think of his own little sister, and at that moment, he somehow understood how she felt. It wasn't that he wished for the misfortune of others, but looking at how much Ye Shuang invested in currying favor with his future in-laws compared to the negative affection points between him and his little sister, this great contrast annoyed Fang Imo to a certain degree. Coughing to avoid the rather direct use of the term grandmother, Fang Yimou found another topic. Your brother. The young man who was with you that night. Yes, that bastard indeed. Ye Shuang nodded vehemently but immediately added, actually, he's my girlfriend's little brother, but, we're close, and since he already treats me as his real big brother, I usually call him my brother. Fang Yimou regretted asking that question as his mind was further lowered. At this very moment, Grandma Luo had decided to take the test again. Xiao Ye, come and look at this calligraphy. Accomplished scholar. Ye Shuang frowned and had no choice but to abandon Fang Yimou to endure his tests. Fang Yimou naturally did not want to give up such a wonderful show. When he saw the imitation of Wang Shiji's calligraphy that Grandma Luo was holding, he instantly squinted his eyes before turning to look at Ye Shuang with mischievous amusement in his eyes. This is an imitation of Lanting Su. It is already 80% similar to the works of the calligraphy saint. Before Ye Shuang could say anything, Fang Yimou stepped in to make the introduction, on one hand helping his friend, who might not know the history of calligraphy, and on the other hand increasing the difficulty of this test. Wang Shiji's Lanting Su was known as the best running hand in the world, so it's quite impressive that an imitation can be so close to the real thing. Xiao Ye, what do you think? Ye Shuang glared at the troublemaker who was obviously enjoying her misfortune and nodded her head in a pretend manner. I also think that it's not too bad.
Chapter 29, Inspired, Elegant, Graceful. Xiao Feng, how long has this junior from your family practiced calling?
Ye Shuang knew that the day would be difficult, but she did not expect it to be this difficult. She had underestimated the difficulty of the ordeal, or rather the cruelty of the in-laws to a future member of the household. As he had predicted, right after Ye Shuang said what he had done, Grandma Luo added, as if she had thought about it afterwards, so, Xiao Ye, why don't you go and write something? I heard from Xiao Feng that you are an expert in calligraphy and painting. Ye Shuang felt like crying because she had wasted all those years of love for her little brother. In the quintessential fashion of little brother Yi, the guy had accidentally dug a hole for his sister to fall into. A laugh almost escaped from Fang Mo's throat. Fortunately, before he did, he used his palm to cover his mouth, and the laughter turned into a cough as it escaped from his lips. It wasn't that he felt particularly bad, but that awkward expression that had appeared on his friend's handsome, inhuman face was too funny. It looked like he had just been struck by lightning. Grandmother Luo fidgeted under Ye Shuang's pleading gaze. It reminded her of her granddaughter Shuang, who used to look at her like this whenever she needed something from her grandmother. After that, Grandma Luo decided not to create problems for her on purpose. So she softened her tone and said, "It's okay, Xiao Ye, go ahead and write whatever you want. In fact, since the elders of the Chinese Calligraphers Association are here, why don't you ask them for some advice?" Grandma Luo decided to give Ye Shuang some breathing room. After hearing this, Fang Yimou glanced to the side of the room, and indeed, there were a few familiar-looking old men standing not far away. Fang Yimou was too busy with his own thoughts to notice Ye Shuang's pleading look. Ye Shuang was invited to the main table by the group of smiling elders, while Grandma Luo stood to the side like a tigress marking her prey. As Ye Shuang gripped the brush, she felt like she was about to pee on the spot. "At least the grip and shape are not bad," the elders commented as they talked with Grandma Luo. "Sister, how long has this young man in your family been practicing calligraphy?" Nowadays, it's hard to find young people who can calm their hearts to focus on traditional arts like calligraphy. We also want them to inherit this valuable skill, so don't worry, we'll be happy to give this young man all the necessary guidance. Ye Shuang's face was covered in cold sweat. Of course, her form wasn't bad, it was thanks to the optimization of her physical condition. Thanks to the alien DNA, she was able to mimic any shape she just saw with 80% accuracy. But the problem was that there was no knowledge of calligraphy among the alien memory. No matter how physically optimized it was, it couldn't simulate a traditional culture unique to Earth. Suddenly, Ye Shuang had a bright gleam in his eyes. The group of elders noticed the life in Ye Shuang's eyes, and they fell silent to wait for him to start with faces full of smiles. Ye Shuang cleared her mind before focusing her attention on the calligraphy in front of her. Instantly, her mind began to analyze and calculate the size of the paper, the distribution ratio of the words, the strokes and lines. When Fang Mo recovered, he finally noticed Ye Shuang's troubled face. He was about to jump to save his friend, but that's when Ye Shuang started to move his brush. His brush strokes were inspired, elegant, graceful. Anyway, Ye Shuang's movement gave everyone present an unpleasant feeling, and it wasn't because his handwriting was horrible. In fact, his calligraphy was perfect. At first glance, it was 70% similar to the other calligraphy, but upon closer inspection, they realized that his work was 100% similar to the other piece. The unpleasant feeling came mainly from Ye Shuang's expression when he wrote. He did not show the restrained insolence of a master calligrapher or the veracity of a scholar. Instead, he looked like a scientific researcher, focused and precise in his actions. The group of elders looked at each other and did not even know how to comment on this curiosity. Calligraphy, an art form, emphasized emotions, so why approach it with the critical eye of a scientist conducting research? Ye Shuang didn't notice the distress she had caused others. She continued to imitate the image she had scanned into her mind, each brushstroke a precise and concise duplication of the original. When she finally stopped and put the brush down, she looked up with a smile and said, "I'm done, please be kind in your comments." Even Fang Mo didn't know what to say.
Chapter 30, Powerful, Majestic, Confident calligraphy is too derivative of the original.
As the saying goes, a person's calligraphy reflects their personality. Because of the different personalities of each master, their handwriting usually carries their own style, making it easy to identify. There was a school of unbridled passion, a school of flowing elegance, and a school of beautiful vitality. There have been many styles of calligraphy over the years, but none of the old experts present had witnessed such a precise style. Yes, precise. When Ye Shuang wrote, he did not exude the ease and freedom that was normally associated with calligraphy. On the contrary, he approached this activity with the precision and accuracy of a determined scientific researcher. Ye Shuang's calligraphy could not be called calligraphy, rather, it was a scanning and photocopying enterprise. In Ye Shuang's mind, the white paper she was supposed to write on was already separated into precise and exact vertical and horizontal lines. Each brush stroke was a replica of the original, following its proportion and distribution. She had completely copied the original onto the white paper. To be honest, it was just as Fang Mo had commented in her mind, it was simply another form of photocopying, though more complicated in nature. A scanner used a line-by-line analysis to duplicate the original, but Ye Shuang copied the original brushstroke by brushstroke. This required a quick and concise mind, a careful hand and a meticulous attitude. It was no wonder that the room was made uncomfortable by this. If someone took Ye Shuang's calligraphy and placed it on top of the original, one would realize that they precisely overlapped. Therefore, when Ye Shuang politely asked for opinions, Fang Mo was speechless, and the group of elders chuckled in amusement. Indeed, heroes come from the youth. An elder, who seemed to be the backbone of the group, was pushed forward by the stares of his friends, and he said to break the awkward silence, "If you don't mind an old fart like me taking a look at your calligraphy." Ye Shuang obediently took a step back from the table to make way for the elder. The elder stepped forward and lowered his head to look. Faced with the gleam of anticipation in Ye Shuang's eyes, the elder felt strangely inconvenienced. "The structure of your writing isn't bad, it looks like you put a lot of practice into your work." Ye Shuang smiled brightly, blinding his audience with his beauty. "Sir, you are too kind. Even old people like to look at beautiful things." Appreciating Ye Shuang's neat appearance, which was rare these days, the elder bit down on the comments he felt like adding. But then again, he would feel too frustrated if he didn't speak his mind. Therefore, with the intention of guiding his younger self, the elder pulled out a "but." He then continued his criticism. Despite the perfect structure, the calligraphy is too derivative of the original, to the point that it has lost a personal touch. After a moment of silence, Ye Shuang pronounced, "Could you explain it more clearly?" This time, it was the elder who was silent. His face was pressed as if he wanted to poop but couldn't. To put it simply, it's about the strength of the strokes. Everyone's handwriting has its own style. For example, some handwriting looks like a chicken scribble, some is busy like a bee, and some is powerful and confident. Using this original as an example, yes, it might look like you're structurally speaking, but each of the original's brushstrokes is powerful and present. One can imagine that the author wasted no time and did not hesitate to note every line and stroke, except yours. The elder still knew how to save the face of the younger. Moreover, Ye Shuang had managed to copy the structure perfectly, which in itself was a kind of talent, just a talent that was not required in calligraphy. Therefore, he swallowed the last sentence, which was the real criticism. However, everyone present understood what he meant. Well, almost everyone anyway. One could say that Ye Shuang was naive, or one could say that she was incredibly obtuse. If one did not express one's thoughts to this young woman explicitly and clearly, she would not have understood what one was trying to tell her. This was the perfect example. Ye Shuang used her own understanding to process the elder's words. Ignoring the hidden meaning, she began to compare the two scriptures. The elder waited for her lesson to register in Ye Shuang's mind. Even though Ye Shuang didn't have a great talent for calligraphy, his foundation was good. If his little reminder could push him towards a great understanding of calligraphy, when he shared this experience with his friends in the future, it would not reflect badly on him. While he waited, Ye Shuang, who had had an epiphany, looked down once more to edit his work, to rescan his work, this time including consideration of the lightness and darkness of color. With an extra brush stroke here, filling in the details there, the finished product was as accurate as before. The added effect blended perfectly into the previous version. If you squinted very closely, you could tell that the added dimension of light and dark added extra depth to the calligraphy. 10 minutes later, the edition was finished. Ye Shuang politely asked once more for the elder's opinion. The elder lowered his head to examine it. Powerful, majestic, confident. This was definitely not the case. The elder's worldview was turned upside down at that very moment.